Who's enjoying SQL bits? All right. Who's going to Fabricon? All right. Okay.
I'm worried about this being recorded now.
Okay, so the idea, we just want to talk about the warehouse and what it is, when you should use it, but try and do it through the medium of dance and demos rather than just bore you with slides. But obviously we need to, because not everyone here has used or played with the warehouse. It's on battery, I will have to do that constantly. We thought we'd do it through demos, show you what it is, and it would be nice if there's a bit of audience interaction, because there's things that we can cover, so such as cloning, shortcuts, Spark, migrations from... Who uses Gen 2?
It's a better response than you get in most rooms, actually.
It is, yeah. Mirroring, we can cover, query insights monitoring, some of the limitations. So we have pretty much an hour or so, 50 minutes, and I wanted to try and make this your session so that when we do get to the feedback, if you don't like it, well, it's only your own fault. So, all right, let's jump into, start with a few, we've got to start with a slide because, well, you know, we are Microsoft. So go into, all right. Has everyone seen this slide before? Cool, okay. So the data warehouse is just a service on top of Fabric. Oh, well, it's a service in Fabric on one lake. And all the data in the data warehouse is stored as...
Delta. We're not going to say...
Delta Parquet. What's Delta Parquet, Jerry?
So Delta is an open standard format built on top of the Parquet file format. No one in the community, now realizing that we're being recorded, not many people would ever say Delta Parquet. They would mostly just say they're Delta tables. That is how everybody else in the world refers to it as, which is why we should call them Delta tables.
Yeah.
But you in the warehouse do something a little bit different. I presume you're going to talk about that a little bit later.
If we need to talk about it, so we're going to cover things at, so if you imagine that you're in an aeroplane and you look down on the world, and you're going across Europe, and you look down, things are big blobs, and that's how you describe them. And when you get closer to the ground, as the plane is coming down, faster and faster, things get into more clarity and you see more detail. So we'll cover things at a high level, and we'll just say the tables are stored in Parquet, and they are Delta, and we'll leave it there for now. And if people need more detail, we'll go into it.
Sounds good.
All right, okay. So let's go and, so has anyone created a warehouse? Okay. Who hasn't created a warehouse? All right, okay. Should we go and create, okay. So
this demo is for them.
Well, it's all for them. Well, actually, we should be creating a workspace first, but I'm cheating to save a bit of time. I've already created a workspace. A workspace in Fabric, think of it as a folder or container. All right, so I'm just going to show you a couple of properties because we normally skip this stuff out, but there is a capacity, which is where your compute is. So I am using what's called a trial capacity, and it has been a trial for 59 days for the last 900 and something days.
Feels like that.
Okay. So if you haven't played with Fabric, there is a trial, and everything you do it in the trial because it costs you nothing. So you can just go and play with it.
And don't complain if the number doesn't go down.
All right. And all right, who isn't working with Fabric that for the pricing reason, and they don't have access to a tenant because their Power BI admin has turned it off, because they're mean, or just don't know how to do it? Okay, there's a few people with mean Power BI admins. Zoom in on them. So, okay, good. So what I did, so I had to do this earlier today because my demo capacity died horribly. There's nothing you like in the morning when you're going to do a demo when you find that nothing at all works. So I had to create a brand new Power BI tenant, Power BI capacity. So I did that by going into Microsoft 365 Developer. you can go into this and create Fabric capacities for free. Woohoo! All right. I used the F word then, and that's the reaction I get. Okay, when we use the F word, we expect a better reaction. It's free. You don't like free? Okay, well, what you do is you go in and you get an F64, no, an F2048.
2048. So you put your credit card in.
Yeah.
Use your personal one. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone might reimburse you for it. And that'd make us all happy, right? So if you don't like free stuff, 2048, couple of, it's only a little bit expensive.
It's seriously expensive.
It is seriously expensive.
Yeah. It's the debt of a small country, that is. So, for free! Okay. And it's really simple. So effectively, I am using this to do the demos for, not my own one, which is the Fabric one, which I was showing the other day. That's all trashed and horrible. Nothing runs in it.
And I think if you want to know more about this, Kevin Chance got a blog post on it. If you look up like Fabric tenant Kevin Chant, and you do it in Google, it should come up.
Or Bing. So essentially, the administrator of this, I just took that across, went to fabric.microsoft.com, and that was it. That's all I needed to do. And then, well, I did that in a separate, what are these, profile windows? This is a nice little donut. So here we go. So this is my one that I just created, or created earlier today. Oh, this is a pro license. There we go. So free for 59 days for the next however long. All right, let's go and create a warehouse. What should we call it?
Come on. What?
Okay. So I need my glasses. There we go. All right. Who's created a DW Gen 2 before? Dedicated SQL pool. How long does it take? How many details? If you created anything in Azure, how many details did you need to put in? Quite a lot.
Too much. Too much is the answer. I like that one.
All right. And that's all I needed to do. I just put in a name, and I get it. That's it. Got to wait for a little while, because it's not instant, because we're not magic. I mean, we could do magic, but... So there we go, it's done. I have a warehouse. No one cares. No one cares. All right. So for this demo, I'm going to create some sample data. But I'll do it the lazy way. I'm creating some sample data. There you go. Easy peasy. That's all we need to do. So who here is thinking about using the Fabric data warehouse? OK. Who here is put off using the Fabric data warehouse because they've heard bad things about it?
Some bad things, yep.
OK. Do we have the roaming mic?
We do.
Yeah. We're not buying time, but it's just interesting to hear what you've heard about it.
It's like a poor person's version of Wheel of Fortune. Where was the first one?
Go, Annika. Run, Annika.
So what we've heard is basically that it isn't enterprise ready, and it's quite expensive for our customer base is usually smaller to medium businesses, and that it isn't tailored for that specifically.
It's not enterprise ready. What's the second one?
Just put the mic a little bit closer.
Sorry. Okay, so we heard that it wasn't quite enterprise ready for small to medium business sizes, and that it was quite expensive.
Quite expensive. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, ready for would depend on what you need to use it for. So
True.
So that's a discussion point. You know, I've just created a data warehouse here. It seems ready to me, but it depends on what I want to do with it. And the cost, I'll just Google that with Bing. How much is should we put it into Copilot? Let's see come on, all right. How much is a Fabric F2? capacity. You never thought you were going to see a Copilot demo, did you? Okay. It is 18 cents for every CU hour, so 36 cents an hour to run it.
Yeah.
On an F2. Is that expensive? I mean, I'm just okay, but it's useful to try and dispel those myths. If you run it at an F2048, yes, it's going to be very expensive. Yes, and we are going to make lots of money off you, and thank you very much. But you can run it off this, or you can just run it off the trial to begin with and see how much capacity you really need. All right. So we're back to our warehouse, and we've got some data. Hooray! Okay, but is that good enough? Have we used up all our time?
Well, we're not getting much response here, so I don't know. Maybe we should just pack it up, let them get to first place on the prize giving.
All right. So we promised you that our tables are in Delta, didn't we? But they're just tables in a data warehouse. How can they be Delta? All right. Let's go and show you. So who here loves SQL Server? Come on. Let's have some SQL Server love. The people in the other room, they don't want to be in this room. Pardon? I'm in trouble already. What, for the noise? You see?
12 minutes. Well done.
Okay. 12 minutes in. Okay. So, all right. Actually, there's a little quiz. Pop quiz, everyone. What is interesting about this screen? I mean, there are lots of interesting things about the screen, but what would you notice if you haven't used Fabric before? What was the second one? Go on, run out. Go on. Why am I paying you so much?
Oh, right to the end too.
Visual query seems very interesting to me.
Okay. And then there was another person down here.
Who was
down here? Was it you, Rui? No, it was behind you.
Sorry.
Grouped by schema.
Hooray! Grouped by schema. How long has it taken us to do? All right. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But if you think back to SQL Server, everything is just in that list with DBO dot whatever it is, schema name dot in one big list.
There is a plugin for that.
In Management Studio?
Yeah.
Oh, do you have to buy it? Well, okay. But we haven't done it. It's taken us a little while. I mean,
It's taken us how many years? How long has the extension been out there for?
is it Mladen's one? No. Okay. So, all right. Now that someone's urinated over my parade. Okay. So, each table is stored in Parquet. So let's go and show you. So I'll go to Properties. And so you really can't see it very easily. But each table...
Just highlight,
over
over the top of it.
Oh, look at that. There's a big, long whatever it is. And then it's got DBO/date at the end. And then there's an ABSF path as well, if I want to be a bit funny. So what I can do is I can copy that just to prove that it really is a Delta table and really is Parquet under the scenes. And I'm going to use this amazing tool called Azure Storage Explorer. So has everyone heard of this? Like 2 people. Has anyone heard of Azure?
No.
No one's heard of Azure. I can't hear them. Maybe there's too much noise coming from the other rooms.
Yeah,
they're drowning you out because they're having so much more fun. Okay, so there is a tool called Azure Storage Explorer. So you can explore the data essentially on OneLake, which is where the tables are. That could be mildly annoying, couldn't it? Okay, if they do it again, we'll do something else. So all the data for all the tables in the warehouses, in the lake houses, everything in Fabric is stored on Storage Explorer. Is there stuff I shouldn't be showing?
No, I was just curious. Do you actually own the domain name Fab?
I do own Fabric, yes.
Fab-Rick.
I do own Fab-Rick. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I'm ruining the demo. But I was very taken aback by that.
Okay, so I'm going to add a connection. So, in fact, because I'm reusing this one, let's go and refresh. So it's really easy just to connect. I hit a button here. Oh, so what I should have done, gone back here. So we put these lovely little copy to clipboard. Copy here, go to Storage Explorer, connect to an ADS Gen 2 account. So OneLake, ADS Gen 2 API, it works. Use OAuth. I got really messed up when they added that in because I didn't, it just stopped, everything stopped working.
You have to use OAuth. We don't.
Yeah.
OneLake doesn't support any other authentication form. We don't generate SAS keys or access keys.
So I'm using that one. Then I paste this in here, and then it gives it SQL bits too.
Do you want to get rid of the DBO and?
Yeah. So it's just going to go to essentially that's my workspace. That's SQL bits workspace. Next, connect. All right, cancel because it's going to do it in the background. And there it is. That's my SQL Bits workspace with that SQL Bits database. Let's have a look at inside the SQL Bits database. So inside each item in Fabric, and an item is what we would call a warehouse, a lake house, a notebook, custo, and the other stuff. The other uninteresting stuff, I'm not interested in the other stuff, only warehouses. We have 2 folders, files and tables. So in the tables, I've got DBOs. I would have that for all my schemas. And in DBO, so I'll embiggen that. I've got tables. And if I go into a table here, I can see I've got a folder and a Delta log. So Delta, so really simply, so we love to make up acronyms and make things sound complicated. So has everyone heard of Parquet? Right.
Hands up.
It's the stuff, really pretty floors, right? In those sort of herringbone.
Yeah, I guess it's a herringbone
Yeah,
pattern, style pattern. Yeah. Yep.
So it's a compressed columnar file. So it's really simple. We write things into them. And they are immutable. You can't change them. With a 29 or 30? Okay. Thank you. So we write things in, and they are immutable. You can't go insert something in the middle of a column store. So if you wanted to change stuff, you either write a brand new Parquet file with the changes out, or Delta has added this thing called a log, and it has all the changes, and it has some new functionality, relatively new, called a delete vector, which would then say, well, stuff has happened in that big Parquet file, but we're not going to rewrite the entire thing on a change. We're just going to mark certain rows as being deleted or changed. So that is why, so Delta is effectively a versioned Parquet system. So if I look in this, which is where the real data is, I just see a Parquet file. And that, if I open that up with anything that can read Parquet, that is the data in my table. And if I go back to the Delta log, this is telling it how that table and every change on that table that has happened. So essentially, for nothing, you get...
preview it.
Huck. Woo! He said preview it. So he wants me to right-click and do preview. There we go. And so this, let's do the first one. There we go. And this is information about the table. And this is the standard Delta information. And you pretty much say that Databricks pretty much mostly came up with it.
Yep.
And they pretty much own the spec. They take, it's open source, but they pretty much run a lot of it. We make contributions, but it's open source. So if you want to make changes, you don't like something in Delta, the way it works, you can simply submit a PR of your changes, and it will get reviewed, and then if it's good enough, it will go in. Yep. So you can have an impact on how Fabric works and how Databricks works. So this has lots of information in it. I won't bore you with all the information. Now, hopefully, there should be a nice little bit of information in here. So Delta has these things called readers and writers. Don't worry about it. But essentially, it's just saying, this is what my table looks like. I've got some columns. Ooh, it's Parquet. It's got a schema, and this is what the schema is. This is describing some information about the table. And then the next one in the list was, so these are all read in order. I'm going to close that. And what it's saying is that this transaction happened, and I'm going to add this. Oh, it's going to be too much. So that's the folder. This piece of data, this Parquet file, is now what makes up that table. So that is there's some quizzical looks. Does that make sense? So essentially, a table is just a grouping of Parquet files. And all the Delta log is saying, at this particular version, these are the ones that are included. And this is pretty much how Hoodie and Iceberg work.
Yep.
So they all work in pretty much the same way. So if you hear Delta, Hoodie, Iceberg, it's all pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're not the same thing. They will have, there'll be big
There's
arguments.
somebody who's going to knife you in the car park after saying that.
But from a very, very high level, when the aeroplane is up in the sky, they are all pretty much the same thing. Okay, so everything, all the tables are Parquet. Now that means that who had problems with SQL Server where you had too many connections, connecting to it, causing problems, running out of memory in the connection pool, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Couple.
well, you can go directly to the file system now. You don't have to go via the SQL endpoint. All right, let's go back. So that is really, so understanding, it might sound really weird, but understanding that concept that we are storing these tables as files makes a huge difference. Because now I can just do anything that works in Fabric, I can do on top of this Delta table. So we can do things like, well, I can query it. I can select star from these tables. Now,
so I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not a real big fan of writing queries in these web browsers.
All right, okay. So you like to use a client tool?
Yeah, probably.
So
like something,
something modern?
Something modern and something that won't take, 100 gigs of RAM to render one web page in a browser.
All right. Yeah, yes, and does...
I like the original memory hog, SSMS, personally.
Do you? Really? You didn't say that the other day. Okay, so up in the top, up here. So if I want to connect, so essentially it is SQL. I want to on that. Under the covers, this is just a slightly different version of SQL Server, but essentially it is just SQL. Ooh. So anything you should be able to do in SQL, with a big star in brackets, there are exceptions. Some functions don't work, alter table, truncate, and lots of other little things we're not going to talk about today. Brush those under the carpet, but everything else is really good. I can connect to SQL Server Management Studio. I can connect Power BI. I can connect Azure Data Studio. But I need the SQL endpoint. I need to know which server it is. But this is a SaaS service. So how do we do it? Up in settings. Right, let's come out there. And then I get this lovely string. Do you want to give the, you can give the explanation for that because you did the work behind that.
So this string, I don't understand why people complain that it doesn't make sense. It's the tenant ID, base 64 encoded, followed by the workspace ID, base 64 encoded with a dash between it. Don't people just know how to base 64 encode in their head and then figure that out? I don't, people complain about this, and I'm just like, come on, just do it. But that is what it is.
All right.
Aliasing is a really good feature. Ideas.fabric.microsoft.com.
So something that shocked a few people is we don't support SQL authentication. Boo, we don't like SQL authentication. Insecure. So I've just connected to it. So I'm going to hit refresh because I cheated earlier. I'm reusing the same workspace.
Ah, okay, yep.
the SQL Bits database, it's just like SQL Server because it pretty much is. All right, tables, and I can query them. I can do all sorts of things with them, apart from alter table and a few other little bits that we can't do. Forget about that. Then I can just query them and just use Management Studio. Or, if you like, you're more like modern, you might use Azure Data Studio. And this is pretty much the same. I've just refresh. Then it should show the latest database in here.
So you can use, I think, anything that, as long as it supports Entra or you can use any of the connectors. So generally that does mean you want to be on a later version of the, like if it's an ODBC driver, you want to be on 19. I don't know, whatever the latest one is, you probably should be on that anyway. But it does mean, and I've literally seen this, you can connect to this with Crystal reports. I wouldn't advise anybody to be using Crystal reports generally. It gave me like a real sent a shiver down my spine when I saw it, because I haven't seen it for a very long time. But you can do these things.
There we go. See? Schema on it. Nasty. They should be in folders. If only there was a way of putting them in folders.
It's an add-on.
All right. So pretty much I can then query whatever I want to do. Any questions on that? So now that we know that it's stored in Delta, other services in Fabric can now read that data, such as Spark and Lakehouses. Let's go. Should we go? OK, so the other thing, let's have a look at this screen. So although I said I wanted a warehouse, I actually got two things. I got a warehouse and a semantic model. I didn't flip into there. And there was a reason I didn't flip into there. Because I was playing with it earlier and it broke on me.
We don't need to talk about semantic models. This is warehouse. This is not...
Not reporting. We don't care about reporting. But I now have the ability, just like your friends in Power BI can just drag and drop, create relationships, and do whatever they do. I mean, reports are for other people, not for me. I do data.
So I can create relationship constraints?
Maybe. Maybe. Yes, when it works. There's a few bugs in it. We are working through it. But yes, if I create a relationship between these two tables, it will create a physical relationship between the tables. And I can then look at those in the DMVs. You can actually disable that if you don't like the physical relationship too. So you can just have the modeling relationship. But if I've got a physical relationship, then my queries are going to go faster because I've told SQL Server, under the covers, this is how those tables are related. It can now do a better job for me. All right. So I'm going to go here. So I got the free semantic model. I'm just going to go and create a lakehouse because I want to show you how you can share that data. Someone go, yes. No. It's just Victoria's talking over there. Yeah, no, I see you. I can hear you. OK, we're creating a lakehouse. Why are we creating a lakehouse? I'll tell you later. But let's create a lakehouse. So name for a lakehouse.
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 You asked the question.
I did. He really doesn't want to be here. Because, OK. So a lakehouse is just essentially somewhere to store some files and this extra special thing called a SQL endpoint. Oh, we've got a question.
Yeah, from online. Does Fabric support managed identities?
Yeah. Does it? No, as in connecting to SQL.
Using an MI.
Yeah, managed identities connecting. So as in service principals connecting in, or? OK. Well, yeah, OK. So you can use normal users, and you can use service principals to connect in.
Yeah.
So if it's whether you can use the SQL's managed identity, so the workspace's managed identity, that's a slightly different question, and one I can't answer today for other reasons. Maybe. OK, so I've created a lakehouse. We don't care about lakehouses because they're for data sciencey people. But you can do clever things in lakehouses. So I can create a shortcut. So who's heard about shortcuts? OK, so let's create a shortcut. Now, I could create it to just to normal storage, to Dataverse, to S3, but we're going to go to one lake. And I'm going to go to my SQL Bits warehouse. And now I'm going to go, so which tables do I want? I want all my tables. Let's have some tables. I'm greedy. I want all my tables.
How many people used Fabric before you could do the checkbox and it was just create a shortcut one by one? Did you have a lot more hair before? Like, was your hair colored before that experience? Yes. Yeah. See, this is what happens.
So I've now added those into a lakehouse. Now, if I was a Sparky person, or I liked that kind of thing, I could just create a notebook. Anyone like data science? We got 2 people in the house, data scientists. Woo! You go fight, yeah, on your own. Yeah, well done. So I can create. So I don't even need to know the Spark. I can just say, right, do this. I don't even need to create the shortcuts because in the warehouse screen, when I went to properties on a table, there was an ABSF path. I can actually use that. So I don't even need to create the shortcut. I can do data science on top of that data table, on delta table, data table. Tables have data in, don't they? It's the same sort of thing. Let me run it. Should have run it before while I was waffling. So essentially, I'm running a bit of Spark. Now I'm a Spark engineer. Hooray! Who was that? Are we having fun yet? Yes. Well, he's having fun. The rest of you aren't sure. All right. We haven't got much time.
No, we probably need to get back to the warehouse at some point.
The warehouse. Well, I wanted to show something slightly different. It is the warehouse, and it's the same sort of engine. So I've done some Spark. Hooray, I'm great. Now, when I go back to the lakehouse, there is this special, so if you haven't used Fabric, this does catch people out. There's this amazingly obvious thing up in the top corner here. I get a SQL Analytics Endpoint. If I click on that, it looks just like a warehouse. Well, it will do when the tables appear, as I'm just padding for time. It should just refresh automatically. I will go and...
If only we knew the person who looked after that part of that feature.
If only. Wow, that looks just like a warehouse. I can query that data. And they're just shortcuts. So I didn't actually create the data. I just had some data somewhere. And now I've made it available to someone. And they can run queries. And they can create data models. And they create their own reports. And I can do this whether it's in the same workspace or not. So I can create models, queries. I just can't update it from here. So I can't go back and insert into it. But I can read from it. So this workspace has now these things. That lakehouse has this lakehouse, has the semantic model, but also has this thing called the SQL Analytics Endpoint. And that is the query bit. That's the bit that's doing the query. And if we nip back to SQL Server Management Studio, our best tool ever, and I go up to here, databases, and I do refresh, it's another database. Ooh. I don't care.
Don't care.
Imagine what I could do if I had all my warehouses and lakehouses in one place. I could do cross-database queries. I could pull things across really easily. I can write stored procedures in my lakehouse. I can update one from the other. It opens up things that we just couldn't do before. So each lakehouse and warehouse, think of them as another, essentially, DB. Logical. I mean, high-level plain view. They're just another database in that workspace. And you can just run queries on them, which, I thought was good. No one cares. All right. So there's a couple of things in the script that I thought might be useful. So since we're running out of time, so I wanted to cover the basics. So the really core bit about it is it's Delta, and it can then be shared around. So if I want to do Spark, I want to do other workloads, I can create. If I create another workspace, I get a new SQL endpoint, which is a new SQL Server. If I ever had to buy a new SQL Server, it would cost me money. You can do that in Fabric. I create another workspace. I create shortcuts to some other tables. I can have other users. And then, well, what if they run out of, they use it all up? They swamp it. Or I can create another workspace, create some shortcuts. Not that I would advise anyone to do that. because that could save you a lot of money and time and effort. But, but I haven't advised you to do that. I'm saying that is a possibility of things you could do. You could literally infinitely scale with a number of SQL endpoints. And we don't block any of them. All right, let's go back to Management Studio. So there was a couple, so should we do some voting on, so we covered storage. We didn't really cover sharing and permissions. Do people want to have a look at sharing and permissions? Couple? Cloning? Really? No one cares. Okay. All right, we'll do this. So we've done shortcuts. There's migrations, mirroring, monitoring. Do we want to touch on those? No one really cares, do they? No. All right, let's go back to clones. All right. So we have added the ability to do because we are now using Delta in the warehouse, we can do this special thing called a clone. And it's if you've used Databricks, yeah, okay, they've been doing it forever. Okay, all right, that's fine. But now we can do it, and we call it this, we're doing a shallow clone, which is essentially, we're cloning that table. We can actually pick a time, go back in time from when we want that table from. You can generate a nice little SQL statement. And it will now go and create a clone of it with the little button. Everything is GUI first. So now it will go
Not GUI only, though.
No, not GUI only. We will get the API done. You can do that with T-SQL, but there may be an API later. But essentially, now it's going to create a copy of that table, but not really a copy. It's going to pretend to take a copy of the data, but we'll get a new JSON log. So it's the same data. It's got a shallow clone. We're not moving or copying any data. So now I'll have an exact copy of that table that I can now change and do all sorts of things. So I'll have 2 copies, and they will effectively diverge from that point. I think that's useful.
Which, I mean, if we're not moving data, what's normally the slowest part of making a clone or a copy of a table?
I mean,
moving the data.
Yeah. So if I do a CTAS, which you could do today, it's moving the data, making an exact copy of the data. But now we're not doing that. Literally, we're creating a new file. So it should, hopefully, it should be letting us know when it's done it in the window, and then it will just appear magically in there. So while it's creating, he said, while it's creating, we're going to share, just to show that permission thing. Yeah. So there's essentially 2 ways you can give access to this database, this data warehouse, and this lakehouse. 10 minutes left. Okay. I can do it from the workspace level. Up here in the top, I've got manage access. And then I can say add people. And I am the only person, because this is one I created earlier. But if I had, Jeff at whatever it is, I can add them in, and I've got different levels of permissions. So they have access, they have these permissions over everything in the workspace.
And you can do it cross-tenant if they're B2B guests. Yeah. For those who know Entra B2B, you'll know that what I said is not a simple statement.
And it works, I've tested it.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
Shouldn't be surprising, should it? But this, it's not what you want to do. This is a boo, because I've given them access to everything. We don't want to give them access to everything. We just want to give them access to SQL. So I can come in here, and there's a sharing icon, and I can hit share, and now, zooming isn't going to work. So I can now give permissions for people to connect just to that SQL endpoint and nothing else. Or I can actually, that's that. So they can read the data in there. I can actually give them, this screen is suboptimal. So if I don't put anything in here, and I put Jeff at microsith.com, and I hit go, they would actually get access to connect to the SQL endpoint. And it's not very clear from this dialog that they're getting access just to connect to it. But then I can grant them permissions to individual tables and all the rights. I have to do that from scratch.
So let's just be clear about that, because this is the same as giving someone connect in T-SQL. You give them that, they can do that, but they cannot query any data. Then you go in through the T-SQL endpoint and you issue normal grant statements.
All right. And then I can do this one. We even have these little help things. So it's saying that now give access, and they can have access to select everything in the database. So effectively gives them read across the database, all the data in it. This one gives them read access to the files. So if I want to give access to someone else for access to files, or I just want to give access to the files, but not the SQL endpoint because I don't know, because I want to be really granular about my permissions. I don't want to connect to SQL, have any access to the data, but I want them to be able to see stuff in one lake. I could do that. That's just on this artifact level. So most people don't understand the permissioning because it's a bit overcomplicated. So then just assume that it's terrible. It does work. It's just not suboptimal in some of the descriptions. Got a question?
Can this permission setup also be used using Entra, Azure Entra?
Can the permission structure also be done using Entra?
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. So groups, users, groups, it all just works. Exactly the same way it does in the other. Just I can give access to groups, it doesn't matter. Anything you would normally do in AD. So what is interesting is you see a slightly different, you'll see something slightly different in SQL Server Management Studio because of the way that we airplane view of it is it's just SQL Server. It just looks like SQL Server. It just works like SQL Server. When you're getting very, very close to the detail, there's a lot of differences. And the way we make it work so it's secure, and the way we manage Entra is actually, the implementation is very different from that. But from very high level detail, that's all you need to worry about. It will just work for you. All right, so we haven't got much time left. So I didn't know whether, since there were only a few people that were interested in migrations.
Mirroring?
I thought we might cover mirroring. It's been mentioned a few times. So do you want to hear about mirroring?
Pardon? And then we've got somebody who wants to quickly hear about primary keys.
Primary keys? Limitations? Well, you can create primary keys. You just can't enforce them. Okay, so I have this discussion with people. I can make your warehouse run fast, or I can make it run slow. Which one would you like? You'd like slow. Okay. Slow but precise. Or you could add your own little bit of SQL that just confirms everything is unique and still make it run fast. So I just, when it's, so in an OLTP system where you haven't got vast amounts of data, you've got a few million rows. Checking that when I'm inserting in, that doesn't exist in a million rows takes a little while, but it's not too bad. But when it's a billion rows, I've got to check a unique value. It's a laws of physics problem, and we haven't completely broken the laws of physics yet, because in this presentation, we obey the laws of physics, and that's what we do. All right.
Until Copilot allows us to break the laws of physics.
And
takes over and becomes sentient.
All right. So mirroring. Yes, mirroring. Which deck is it? Mirroring. Okay. Mirroring is a new feature that we will be announcing next week, and I can say that because I'm the PM. Hooray! No, they don't care, do they?
Well, the good thing about it is you now know if it doesn't work.
Oh, yes, so many sleepless nights. Yes, it's being announced the end of Q1. So if you go to aka.ms/fabric roadmap, end of Q1, that's when we're releasing it as public preview, you will all be able to not use mirroring. Hooray! You will all have the opportunity to turn it on because we have learned that just turning stuff on in your tenants for you, so everybody can use, probably not the best idea. So you will have the opportunity to enable it. It will be in the capacity settings and the tenant admin settings, and then that will give you, you can then create mirrors, or essentially copies of data from SQLDB, Snowflake. Is that all the Snowflake love we get in the room?
We're at bits.
Who's a Snowflake fan? Come on, admit it.
There's one.
Two, okay. And Cosmos DB. Cosmos? That's a bit more Cosmos love. Okay. So mirroring is just really simple. High level plane. Really simple. We replicate, although we don't use the word replicate, we say mirror because mirroring is, we replicate that data and we use CDC to create a copy of it in OneLake, a Delta table. And that's it. I mean, we have stuff so you can monitor it. We've got a question. Now, how it works is really complicated, and we don't have time to go into that. But
What about managed instance?
it's a lovely product. What about managed instance?
Can you mirror that?
Not
Yet.
next week.
Not next week.
No, but if you work at Microsoft, you might be able to. So yes, that will be coming. And who's got SQL Server on-prem? That's nice.
Not many.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, we'll be doing that too. Okay. We just don't have the dates that we can announce out, but that's being worked on. So we have told everyone all the flavors of SQL will be done, and we're looking at other sources, Postgres. So I've got a demo, but we're going to run out of time because I wanted to finish a couple of minutes early so you could get to the front for when the prizes are being done.
Just a question on mirroring. So coming back to that earlier gentleman's question.
Bring the microphone a bit up
sorry.
closer.
Yeah.
The earlier gentleman's question about Fabric being expensive, relatively. Is mirroring going to be on a specific F64, or will that be available across the board? Because things like Managed Private Endpoint was released, and we were excited until we started reading that it's F64 and upwards, Copilot, F64 and upwards. So just asking on mirroring, will that be available across the board?
That's a good question.
It will be available on an F2. Hooray! No? Is that? It will be available on an F2. Yay! But you can all use an F2048 if you like. And you could pause it while it's running. So, that's really up to you. So it's really simple. It's really fun. It is essentially,
Just hold the mic close to you.
while we have got you for another few seconds,
There's one more question.
this is a pretty picture. One more question. Go on then.
Yeah, it's just about partitioning. Is that possible within the warehouse?
Not today.
Tomorrow?
Not tomorrow.
Next week?
No. It's something that we are looking at and working on. It's not it adds a level of complexity. So we've got 1 minute left. So we have built so if any of you are upset about some of the stuff we've done, we are building a SaaS product. So we've taken a lot of we describe it as we've taken away lots of the knobs and dials away from people, so they can't control things. So we are controlling all that, but as we are getting bigger data sets and we're seeing other customers, there was always a plan that we would have partitioning, but it adds that level of complexity and
Isn't
skill.
partitioning quite business specific in how it's done?
Well, it'll be data.
Based on the type of column that you want to use. Is that being automated then, are you saying? Or will we still have control over where and how it's partitioned?
It's at the time. Oh, we've just hit time. Thank you. That is a question that we would have to take offline and have a discussion. Let's say backlog. Backlog. And then I can legally get away with not getting sacked.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you all for coming. And before you go...
Feedback slide.
Feedback slide, feedback slide, feedback slide, feedback slide, feedback slide, feedback slide.
Mark's a nice person. I'm not. When you do the feedback, you get to choose a charity. So if you don't do feedback, you're really taking money from a charity.
Oh, that's awful.
I'm more than happy to guilt trip people into doing feedback if that's what it requires. I'm shameless about it.
Are you saying that if they just get up and walk out, they're terrible people?
Yes.
Because they haven't filled in their feedback?
Yes.
In
all honesty, feedback is important for all speakers. Please do it. Everybody I know pays a lot of attention to it. But also, think of the puppy dogs or the the fitness, the trees. Like,
No.
come on.
No one worry about trees, but people care about puppies. Think about puppies up trees. Yes. Think about those poor puppies who are caught up trees and they need you to save them. So please fill some feedback, and Alex Whittle's amazing script will be sending me feedback. He has got so many cursors in that. He was telling me how great it is. I see you leaving. Did you do your feedback? I know we're at time, but is that from Alex? Thank you, Alex. Go on, go. There's a prize giving.
Thank you.